We are in Jonah chapter 4, and we've come through these passages. Jonah is not the best of prophets, is he? He's kind of failed, miserable, broken. He's a runaway. He's AWOL on the journey, if you want to call it that. We find out he gets swallowed by this whale. He gets vomited up, all puke covered, and actually then gives a message to the people while he's covered in whale vomit. And it's a pretty miserable message too, pretty much saying you're doomed, you're gonna die, God's going to overthrow you. And then he walks outside the city, and this is what happens in chapter 4. It says, and he prayed to the Lord and said, O Lord, is not this what I said when I was yet in my country? That is why I made haste to flee to Tarshish, for I knew that you are a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love, and relenting from disaster. Therefore now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. And the Lord said, do you do well to be angry? Jonah went out of the city and sat on the east of the city and made a booth for himself there. He sat under it in the shade until he should see what would become of the city. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Okay, quiz time. City and airport. We should do this challenge side of the rooms here. Chicago? Well, that was not enthusiastic enough. Chicago? It's one you know, so you got to get it right, you got to get it loud. Okay, London? Heathrow, you got it. Paris? De Gaulle. Good job. Whew, I thought that was a question. How about Houston? Bush. How about New York? That's okay, and I was going to say there's two, it's a trick. LaGuardia is the one I wanted to ask about. LaGuardia, now how many knows who LaGuardia was? He was the mayor of New York City. Yep. Back during the Depression and World War I, and he was known as this, he was adored by this whole community. He was known as the Little Flower because he was only about 5'4", and he always wore a carnation in his suit. He was known as the one who would go out with the fire trucks and he would raid the speakeasies with the police. Boy, this goes backwards, doesn't it? And he was known to be this character who would take the entire orphanage to the baseball game. And whenever the New York paper was on strike, he would actually get on the radio and read the funnies to people. It is told that late one night, cold night in January of 1935, the mayor turned up at a night court in a severe, one of the severest and poorest wards of the city. And LaGuardia dismissed the judge for that night. And he took over the bench himself. By the way, I don't think this would go over so well today. I think there'd be a serious problem, and I don't think people would necessarily take what was said or appreciate the leadership. But, in fact, you're going to hear more about that in the story. But here's what he did. He sits down and he begins to make rulings over these cases that are coming before him. And one particular case is a grandmother who comes and she's been charged with theft. And as he begins to hear this case, he finds out that this grandmother doesn't have a job. Her daughter has been sick and in the hospital and doesn't have means to keep her job or to provide food. And she's taking care of the whole family and the grandkids. And there's no food. There hasn't been any food. And she was just looking for a way to feed her children. And she didn't know what else to do. You have to understand, it's 1935. So her case is she's stolen a loaf of bread. And LaGuardia tries to convince the shopkeeper just to dismiss the case, thinking that there's an extreme circumstance here, wanting to provide for the people of his city. But the shopkeeper says, I'm sorry, but she needs to be punished. There needs to be justice because this is a very rough neighborhood. People need to understand that there's consequences for what they do. There can't be exceptions made. And he looked at him and said, you're right. We cannot make exceptions. Justice has to be done. So he says, $10. By the way, 1935 people, $10. Or 10 days in jail. Knowing that if she did that, what was going to happen to these grandkids? So immediately he pulls out his billfold and he takes $10 and he puts it, gives it to the bailiff, says, and her debt is paid. But not only that, this is where things get a little mixed up, and I can guarantee you people in our court system today would throw a fit. But this mayor who's beloved said, not only that, but I am fining everyone in this courtroom today. I'm fining every one of you 50 cents for living in a community where a grandmother has to steal to feed her grandchildren. So the shopkeeper, who was just filing charges for her stealing, put 50 cents in the coffin. All of these petty criminals, police officers, lawyers, other people in the courtroom all put 50 cents in. Again, 1935. She went home with $47.50. She who came to be served justice and punishment left with a handful of mercy. I think Jonah had a mindset of the shopkeeper. Jonah had been preaching and teaching and prophesying for this community of Israel. In fact, he was an Israelite and he believed that God's mercy was for Israel. He believed that it belonged here, and this is what was right and good, and it didn't belong anywhere else. And of course, he had seen it go through cycles up and down, and people were unrepentant and sinful and broken, and they'd fall away, and then they'd come back, and God would give mercy again. They'd see them destroyed and restored. And these Ninevites, these outsiders, these people who were probably part of one of the nations who had previously destroyed them, people that he hated, people that he wanted to see demolished, destroyed. But he hears that God's going to utterly destroy them. He gets excited. He's like, yes, God, I want to see them destroyed. They deserve punishment. They deserve to be totally wiped off the face of the earth. Jonah doesn't think they deserve that loaf of bread. They don't deserve the same loaf of bread that the Israelites had received God's mercy. Jonah wants to see them punished. Isn't there a difference between God's perspective of a person and our perspective of a person? Isn't there a difference between the way God saw the Ninevites and the way Jonah saw the Ninevites? Do you see the difference? Do you see the challenge that's going on here? How do we understand the value of a person? What are our expectations for them? Is the way that we grant value to somebody different than the way that God grants value to them? Do we have a different level of expectations that we ask for them to meet rather than the way that God offers it freely? Let me ask it this way. Have you ever begrudged someone? I mean, have you ever begrudged them for something that they received? Maybe they didn't earn it. They didn't work hard enough for it. Maybe you worked the same, but they somehow got more, or they were blessed in a different way, or maybe they didn't work at all, but they got something that you never have received, or maybe never will. Have you ever begrudged someone because of what they've received? Jesus tells us a story in Matthew chapter 20. He tells us this parable of a master who had a vineyard. And of course, he's putting people to work. So he goes into the city, and this is where they would put people to work on a daily basis. They'd go to the city and hire people and say, go to my vineyard and work. And so he showed up, and he says to this whole group of people standing there, go to my vineyard and work for the day, and I will give you a denarius. And they're like, all right, we got work for the day. 3 hours later, he sees that there's still people not working in the city. He says, go to my vineyard and work, I'll pay you. On the 6th hour, it says that there were more people that he saw that still had not been put to work. He says, go, and I will pay you. On the 9th hour, there were still people, and he says, go, and I will pay you. Now, this is when they're working 12-hour days, 12-hour shifts. It also says there was people on the 11th hour who are still not working. And he went to them and says, there's only an hour left. Go to my fields and work, and I will pay you. Now, I want you to remember, there were people who had already been working for 11 hours during the day, during the heat of the day, working hard, toiling in their labor for a denarius. And these people show up for the last hour of the day. Here's where we encounter the text, and it says this in verse 8. It begins by saying, when the evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his foreman, call the laborers and pay them their wages, beginning with the last up to the first. And when those hired about the 11th hour came, each of them received a denarius. Now when those hired first came, they thought that they would receive more, but each of them also received a denarius. And on receiving it, they grumbled at the master of the house, saying, these last workers only worked for 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat. But he replied to them, friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for 1 denarius? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to this last worker as I give to you. Am I not allowed to do with what I have as I choose? Or do you begrudge me my generosity? Maybe we should ask ourselves, have we ever begrudged God his generosity? Have we ever seen mercy done and we got upset? Have we ever seen grace extended or someone blessed and we think, that's not fair? I should have gotten more. I worked harder. I deserve it more. Brothers and sisters, let me just tell you, if the kingdom of heaven, if a relationship with God is based upon who has done enough, none of us will qualify. None of us can earn our way. In fact, Ephesians 2, 8 through 10 reminds us that we're not saved by faith. We're not saved by our works. We are saved only by faith through grace. There's nothing that any of us can do to earn our way. Actually, this week I love watching people. Anybody else just love kind of sit back and just watch the interactions, relationships, the facial expressions, all that stuff that goes on? Yeah, I like watching your facial expressions while preaching too, just that's a while. This week I saw a mother with a couple children. And you can tell that the youngest child actually had some special needs, you know, not that profound, but that just had a little more needs than the other child. And it was beautiful when I saw the children interacting, and it was to see the children get along. It was great. The older one was even caring for and taking care of the needs of this younger child. It was beautiful. But something changed dramatically when all of a sudden this child had a need for mom. And mom all of a sudden was in there and caring for the needs of this younger child. And all of a sudden, the older child, you know what was happening with the older child? You can probably guess. There was jealousy. And it was all of a sudden trying to push and claw, trying to get attention from mom, and I want some attention too, and I deserve some attention too. And I got to thinking, you know, that reminds me of Jonah. That reminds me of Jonah getting upset because all of a sudden, these people who he didn't think were worthy were getting attention. They were receiving God's mercy the same as he had received God's mercy. And he didn't think it was fair. In fact, I can picture Jonah at this point on the ground, throwing a fit, upset and angry because God actually cared about him. You ever seen those kids on the ground? Okay, have you had those kids on the ground? Okay, that's just true confession. On the ground, face down, and their hands going like this, and their feet kicking, throwing a fit, and screaming. And I can picture Jonah doing this very same thing. Because did you hear his words? He says this. He says, God, I knew that you would forgive them. God, I knew that you would bless them, that you would relent from this disaster. I knew that you were merciful. I knew that. Why did you send me here? I'd rather just die. Just kill me now. This is what he's saying. I'd rather just die. Doesn't that sound like a child? Yeah, I'm gonna be so angry at you. How ridiculous is it for us to be so upset that someone else gets the same kind of blessing that we get? How ridiculous is it that we look at somebody that we somehow determine that they're not worthy of receiving that, and yet the person who's offering it does not belong to us? How ridiculous is it for us to shout at God, God, I'd rather be dead than to watch this person be blessed. Rather than forgive this person. I love God's response at this point, or the master's response at this point. He says, Jonah, do you do well to be angry? Do you do good to be upset about this? Is it worth being upset about? Interesting enough, if you read to the end of the text, you'll find that Jonah gets upset and angry again because of this plant that had grown to give him shade, and God lets it wither and die. And Jonah gets angry because the plant dies. And God's like, Jonah, do you do well to be angry? The plant wasn't yours either. How often is it that we get angry about things that don't belong to us in the first place? Maybe I should ask the question, have you ever sat back like Jonah and just waited and watched and hoped for, anticipated the destruction of another person or another people group? Just hoped that something horrible would happen to them. That's what Jonah was doing. They deserve it. This New York shopkeeper was angry. He wanted justice. He wanted to see this woman punished. He didn't care about her situation. He didn't care about mercy. He wasn't thinking about her grandchildren. He just knew that an injustice had been done to him. But Mayor LaGuardia had a different perspective, didn't he? He cared about her situation. He cared about her grandchildren. He cared about the people in his city in a capacity that the shopkeeper could never have. His actions were more about a greater justice than just a loaf of bread, but about a justice of the city and caring for its community. His actions were about compassion and mercy that earned the ongoing respect of the city. His actions were about blessing the meek and the poor, not oppressing them. It was not about the broken system that they were part of or the social structures, which, by the way, they still exist today. He tried to rise above that in order to care for the needs of those around him. Maybe one of the big questions I should be asking is, what can we learn from Jonah? What can we learn from this grumpy, angry, miserable prophet? In contrast with Mayor LaGuardia, what can we learn from a man like that? What can we learn about ourselves as we think about what is just and what is unjust? Who is deserving? Who is not? What is love? What is hate? What is it to bless someone who curses us? What is jealousy? Maybe we should ask ourselves a challenging question. Can we rise above the Jonah perspective? Can we choose instead to extend mercy where we feel anger? Can we find a way to offer a blessing where instead judgment just feels better? How can we show compassion rather than waiting for the destruction of others? I'll ask you a question to look really close at yourself. What situations in your life? What individuals? Co-workers? What's made you angry? What's made you jealous or upset? What has made you want for their destruction? How can you change that perspective? My challenge to you this week is to think about those situations and scenarios that you can find yourself feeling like or relating to Jonah in the way that he saw the Ninevites. And then challenge yourself to instead view those same people the way that God viewed them, rather than the way that Jonah viewed them. Our challenge in this world is not to be the prophets of judgment and doom, but to be the prophets of grace